Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for tuning in. You are now listening to the Slam Dunk Show, and I am your host, Tariq Ibrahim. And we have an absolutely fantastic, amazing, monumental show for you today. And before we get into the show, there are some major events happening here in Windsor, Ontario, and it's extremely important that I direct your attention to these events. The first event that is of extreme importance is the blood drive that is happening at the Rose City Islamic Center this Saturday. So September 14th at the Rose City Islamic Center, there's an urgent need to collect blood. So if you're able to take time from your busy schedule, go there to the Rose City Islamic Center. And if you don't know where that is, that's off of Jefferson. So if you're going, just find the road Jefferson, and it's east of Jefferson, the 2nd Street, north of Tecumseh Road. So you go there, donate your blood, and you're saving humanity, really. So please take time to do that. And also just as important is the Terry Fox run, and that is happening tomorrow, Sunday rather, and that's also extreme importance. For those that don't know the story of Terry Fox, I'm not gonna steal the thunder of it, but it's an incredible story of one man's passion, one man's dedication. And I think it's a very encouraging story, a story that everybody can reflect on and actually take some lessons out of. And I would encourage everybody, Muslim and non-Muslim, to really participate in this event, this walk for the cure, really, and try and make a difference. I feel that many times as human beings, and this is regardless of religious belief, really, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, that sometimes you feel that the world is so overwhelming and that the world is so daunting that there isn't really much you as an individual can do. And I think that thought is the thought process of somebody that cannot contribute and has just given up on humanity in general. Because if you were to apply that ideology or that belief on everybody else, then the world would be very bleak and humanity would be destroyed, and hope and optimism and all these amazing ideas and things would be over. But when someone believes that they can make a difference and that one person can contribute and one person's efforts and sacrifices is worth it, then you go on to find out that other people can also share this thought, and then collaboratively or collectively a difference begins to happen. So don't give up. If you feel that, what difference can I make if I am just one person giving blood, or what difference can I make if I'm one person just helping out in this Terry Fox run, I still think that you should do it. And this will motivate others, and then you can tell this story to others, and then you yourself will find other people's with similar interests and similar, intentions on helping humanity. And I think that's something that really, 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 really needs to be emphasized in the life of everybody, that we all need to take time to give back, right? Regardless of religion, regardless of belief, regardless of what country you're from, we take and we have to give. And I think we should be giving more than we're actually taking. And I'm not going to go into different hadiths and different verses of the Quran that clearly emphasize this. I'll let you figure that out. I'll let you look into it. But I just want to bring it to your attention. That's all. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. So what you'll find on any day, but specifically the days that just passed, are a very wide variety, right, of different perspectives across, a very, very, very wide array of pages and thoughts which we would call the internet. Everything's there, right? You can't get away from it. And especially in respect to what happened on September 11th, right? You'll find things from mourning to patriotism to conspiracy theory, right? Everybody that has not even just a voice, but just somebody that has a keyboard has now been given the ability to express him or herself and to show the world really what it's all about. And sometimes you're glad that you did, and other times the satisfaction is not as high. Yet when you wake up this morning, a vivid realization stuck out in the mind that was so real, that was so lucid, it felt that it wasn't even my own. And really what it involves was a piece of Muslim history, right, that every single Muslim most likely knows. And if you're listening to this show today and you're Muslim and you're thinking that I've heard this before, then just hold on, because most of the things that are mentioned on the show anyway are for the mere purpose of acting as a reminder. So bear with me as I briefly summarize it for those Muslims who may not be aware, and for those non-Muslims that may have not heard it as well. Now, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, amazing human being, best of human beings. Early in the mission, the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, he and the Muslims had been turned out of every refuge they had ever known. Nothing was to be catered to them. Nothing could host them. Complete and utter persecution, torture in Mecca because of their calling to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one God, instead of idols that their forefathers had been worshiping. And ultimately, they threw them out and forced them into the harshness of the arid, dry desert. And there, Muhammad's uncle, sallallahu Abu Talib, who had protected him like a father following the death of his father and grandfather, died. So his protector is dead. And there, Muhammad Sallallahu one and only wife, Khadija, who married the much younger Muhammad for his amazing character, for his honesty, and who had been his main source of emotional support and comfort during the confusing times, the fearful times of his first revelation. His right hand, his pillar, his strength, also passed away. And this scene is really a scene that every single human being experiencing hardship, experiencing difficulty, really needs to understand that everything that you cherished in your life, whether materialistically or biologically, is now gone. And there's nothing. And at that point, it would drive even the firmest of believers into hopelessness and despair. So many times, we have seen so many people wonder, if there is a God, why doesn't he hear me? Why isn't he answering me? Why does he let this happen? Yet the beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, was a man driven by the Spirit of God and in being so was always solution orientated. In the bitterest and toughest of times of sorrow and sadness and difficulty, this was just alien, unrecognized to his character. He wouldn't recognize it. And he went with Zayd, a former slave whom he had freed and then adopted as his own son, to the neighboring city of Taif. And in hopes of having an audience amongst the three brothers who shared control of the city, it was difficult not to respect Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, and feel compelled to lend him an ear. He wasn't a nobleman, but he wasn't a commoner either. And he just had one of those faces that drew you in, and much of it, based upon numerous reports, was due to his constant and contagious smile. And above all, he was known as Al-Amin. Al-Amin, the truthful. So the three ruling brothers of Taif gave him the audience. They listened to him. They heard him out. Soon, however, they realized that he called for something that would make enemies out of their neighbors in Mecca. And regardless of the truth of what he spoke, it was in no way politically or economically in their benefit. And seeing that and realizing the danger and knowing that the Meccans would eagerly want to know what their allies in Taif did to secure their loyalty, to show that they are aligned with the people of Mecca, they repulsed Muhammad ﷺ and Zayd and let the gangs, let the hooligans of the streets drive the children to throw and chuck and pummel them with stones. And Zayd did his best to shield his foster father, but to no avail. The crowd was simply overwhelming, and in the pursuit of truth, blood of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was shed. And suffice with blood to the point that even his shoes were filled with it. He just walked and walked. And he would later be asked if there was a day worse than the Battle of Uhud. The Battle of Uhud was a crushing defeat the Muslims faced, where Muhammad was struck in the head so hard that his helmet split and pieces of chain were embedded into his face. Extreme pain. It was a day of losses too great and innumerable to list them all. So many great people perished this day. So many companions died this day. Yet, when asked what was the worst day, he would say that this day was worse than even that. So as he walked, he raised his head to the sky and saw the archangel Gabriel descending from a cleaving of the clouds, accompanied by yet another angel he had never seen. And Gabriel called out to him, God Almighty has witnessed what the people have done to you and how they have rejected you. So he has sent the angel of the mountains to do as you command. Right? And imagine the feeling and the pain and the suffering that at this moment, Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, is experiencing and is going through. And here's the opportunity. Here's the chance. And the other angel then greets him and calls out to him, O Muhammad, verily God has witnessed what the people have done. I am the angel of the mountains, and your Lord has sent me to do whatever you shall command. What do you command? If you wish, I shall topple upon them the two mountains that tower over them. And the word for two mountains in Arabic texts is ash-shakrabain, which literally means the two Rockies. And it indicates that had those two mountains been brought down upon the people, they would have faced a hailstorm of boulders and stones that would have ripped them to shreds before the mass of the mountains could even crush them. And at that very moment, it was Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's call. The fate of those people who had mercilessly abused him with the pulp, right? Just completely destroyed him to a pulp. Their destiny, their fate was in his hands. But there was no moment of silence wherein pondering his decision. There was no thought process. There was only the answer that came naturally to the man who was Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And when the angels asked him, do you wish for us to destroy the inhabitants of here? He says, no. Rather, it is my adherent wish that God raise from amongst them a people who will worship him alone and place nothing before him. At this moment, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, may peace and blessings be upon him, is abused, is broken, disrespected, and bloodied. And he had placed his hope in those people's future being better than their present. That the people that was attacking him and that were disrespecting him and that were throwing stones at him, that he did not want or worry about them, but he said, perhaps the generation after them will be better, and therefore do not destroy them. Hope was given to the children that they would be better than their parents. And he had placed hope in them. And on that day, that very day, when he could have easily given into rage, when he could have easily given into revenge, and he could have easily been his, he decided not to bring the two mountains down upon the people, some of whom had harmed him, and probably most of whom had not, to address the abuse he had been dealt with that day. And make no mistake, when the time came to fight, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his companions proved formidable as soldiers with a disciplined ferocity that struck fear into the two superpowers of his day, which were, of course, Rome and Persia. Yet for this affront, for this people, for these individuals from this people in this city of Taif, that was certainly primarily at him, he would not punish them. And it was the way of our beloved Prophet ﷺ to not hold accountable an entire people for the injustices of their leaders and those who followed them in oppression. It was rather the way of our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to not bring those two towers down upon them. And this is the nugget that I wanted to leave you guys with today. And it's extremely important that we really get the lessons out of the seerah or out of the biography of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. This was not an ordinary man. Although he was a human being, born and died and experienced all of what life has to offer. He was married, he had children, his children died, he was an orphan. In every aspect of the Prophet Muhammad's life, anybody is able to look at him and relate to him. He was a statesman, he was the commander of an army, he was the commander of his society, right? Loving husband. All these are there for us to note. And many of the lessons we're very easily able to take, but sometimes the lessons seem abstract. Sometimes the lessons seem to be different. And therefore I again remind you to really read over and refamiliarize the story of Taif. And remember why our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, did not choose to destroy this city. And this should be something that we really study, not just as Muslims, but as human beings, and understanding what hope, what optimism, and what giving your society their just respect and giving them the opportunity to grow. Again, I started the show today talking about the ability for the individuals to create change, for the individuals to carry themselves in a way in which they better their society. And even when you feel that your society is in a state of hopelessness, or that where you're living is in a state of disarray, that was never enough for the prophets to give up on. And that they would constantly work to make their society a better place. They would constantly work to make where they live the best of places. At times they would seclude themselves to get firmer, because sometimes the task was great. Sometimes it was very difficult. As you see here, he went to a Taif to talk to the people, and they rejected him, and they banished him, and they abused him. But he never gave up, right? And as human beings, sometimes I think that road, that where we can just say, oh, you know what, I give up, that's way too hard, forget it, I'm done. I think we overly use this road. We overly travel on this road. So I would like to challenge the status quo of what human beings hold in their mind as I'm going to give up. And push yourselves just a little bit further. That when you think you can't do it anymore, when you think it's over, go that extra step. And review the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and look at how he dealt with human beings. Look how he dealt with his people. Because the amount of mercy, the amount of love, the amount of compassion that he had for his society, really, I think Muslims and non-Muslims can learn a great deal about. Inshallah, we'll conclude there. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. Wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. And we will see you again next week on CJAM 99.1 FM. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.